So the Washington Post is calling the time since the election 20 days of fantasy and failure for President Trump. This new reporting details the president's attempts to overturn the election, saying it has exemplified some of the hallmarks of life in Trump's White House, a government paralyzed by the president's fragile emotional state, advisors nourishing his fables, expletive-laden feuds between factions of aides and advisors, and a pernicious blurring of truth and fantasy. The Post, in fact, spoke with 32 senior administration officials who, for the most part, chose to remain anonymous. Joining me now, Don Calloway, Democratic strategist and founder of the National Voter Protection Action Fund, Susan Del Percio, Republican strategist and senior advisor to the Lincoln Project, and David Jolly, former Republican congressman from Florida. You guys are definitely going on record with this one. First to you, Susan, what do you make of this new reporting? How do you think history will look back at this period?
Well, I think it's very consistent with Trump throughout his tenure as president. He lives in his own world. It's how he wants to see it. He expects everyone to be on his, quote, side. And if you're not with him, you're against him. Of course he's living in some kind of delusional world if he doesn't think he actually lost the election. He did. And the courts keep telling him, I don't know how many times he wants to lose Pennsylvania or Georgia. I mean, he lost Michigan again. He keeps losing and losing and losing. It's time, to stop with the lawsuits, and he may try and figure out his next move. But for right now, maybe he should focus on like the 2,000 people who are dying every day.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what he should focus on. Maybe he should be looking at what he can do to help Americans get through this crisis. We need COVID funding, relief package funding. So maybe he should stop playing golf, stop feeling sorry for himself, and still do his job that he has been elected to do for another 50 days.
You know, David, the Post article goes on to say this, that Trump empowered loyalists who were willing to tell him what he wanted to hear, that he would have won in a landslide had the election not been rigged and stolen, and then to sacrifice their reputations by waging a campaign in courtrooms and in the media to convince the public of that delusion. How much, David, of what we've seen in the past weeks is partly because the president has surrounded himself with people who tell him what he wants to hear? I mean, would we be in this situation if advisors sat him down and told him the truth?
Yeah, Alex, it's a great question, but none of those advisors will actually go to work for Donald Trump. I mean, consider just among the legal community the number of reputable law firms that said, we're not going to represent a client with a meritless claim because their reputation's on the line as well. And consistently throughout this administration, we have seen, the phrase, only the best people. We've seen people either with compromised reputations, compromised ability to actually perform on behalf of a president, or perhaps just compromised by their own affinity to Donald Trump, the man. But I think the reason this feels different in this interim between the election and the inauguration is we're now seeing Donald Trump untethered from the power of the presidency. The mystique is gone. He is now a failed incumbent who lost re-election. And so all of these fits and starts he's attempting aren't working, because this is now Joe Biden's America. This is now the incoming Joe Biden administration and presidency. And so where Donald Trump used to command the awesome powers of the presidency, those are waning here in the final days, and they will continue to do so until January 20th.
That said, Dawn, this comes as there's also the new reporting that Donald Trump's gearing up for a potential 2024 run. So first, let's take a listen to how Vice President-elect Kamala Harris reacted when asked about the prospect of a rematch.
President Trump has been making motions that he'll run again in 2024. Do you feel like you and President Biden, Biden would be ready to face him again?
Please.
Did she take the words or the laughter right out of your mouth? I mean, how do you feel about that?
I had not seen that clip, but that's a fantastic answer. First of all, it's completely on brand that the president would probably try to run again. Why? Because of everything my fellow panelists have said. But if you consider the totality of not only his presidency, but also his life, his 75 years on this earth, he is defined by one thing. That is the relentless pursuit of self-interest. That's why he doesn't care about the pandemic. That's why he surrounds his office with yes men. That's why he discriminated and evicted black people and so on and so forth, because his only real concern over the course of his lifetime has been himself and self-aggrandizement. So it patterns that he would run for president again in 2024 because it's a continued exercise in self. I think that Kamala, her answer is interesting because I think that there's a very real prospect that Joe Biden could be a one-term president. So whether or not the reporter knew it, she could essentially have been asking about Kamala versus President Trump in 2024.
So let me just quickly get to you, David, because I'm almost out of time. The Daily Beast reports that President Trump is discussing a possible 2024 event on Biden's inauguration day, right?
Yeah.
The conversations have explored, among other things, how Trump could best time his announcement so as to keep the Republican Party behind him for the next 4 years. Would the Republican Party rally behind him? I mean, doesn't this muddy chances for other potential heavyweight GOP candidates? They're going to step up and say no.
Yeah, look, if Trump tries counter-programming on January 20th, it'll simply demonstrate the indecency of the man, both as president and as an individual. But I think what to watch for coming forward, Alex, is this. The difference between Trumpism, the political philosophy, and Donald Trump, the man who controls the party. Trumpism, the political philosophy, the populism, is here to stay. You're seeing traditional conservatives like Josh Hawley, Marco Rubio try to adopt it. But they're going to reject Trump, the man, because they have their own aspirations. If Donald Trump tries to keep control of the party, I really don't believe it works. And the big question for whomever the GOP nominee is in 2024 is, how do you win? Republicans have now lost 7 of the past 8 popular votes. How does the Republican Party recover from this? I don't know. It's not through a Donald Trump run in 2024.
Okay, well, I do hope the three of you, Dawn, Susan, David, you'll all come back next Sunday. I love our conversations, even though this one was shorter than I thought, but my fault. Anyway, thanks.